What really happened inside the hospital's ice room when Taehyung and Jimin were seen in tears beside Jungkook? Why did Jungkook's final words leave ARMY across the world crying uncontrollably? Stay until the end, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you believe friendship can heal even the deepest pain. It all started with whispers. A dimly lit hospital corridor, security guards moving quietly, and flashes of cameras outside that tried to catch even the smallest glimpse of what was happening inside. No one knew exactly what was unfolding, but one thing was clear. Something had shaken BTS to its very core. When Taehyung and Jimin were spotted entering the restricted area of the hospital, the ICU room to be exact, fans held their breath. Why were they there? What had happened to Jungkook, the golden magne whose energy never seemed to fade? Inside, the air was cold, painfully cold. Machines beeped softly, and the sterile scent of antiseptic filled the room. Taehyung's eyes were already red, his lips trembling as he tried to smile for Jimin, who stood beside him gripping a small box of tissues he hadn't used yet. But as soon as their eyes fell upon Jungkook lying motionless under the pale light, with tubes running along his arms and his heartbeat visible on a flickering monitor, the tears finally came. It wasn't just sadness, it was disbelief, guilt, love, and helplessness all woven together in a silence that broke them from within. Why did it have to be like this? Jimin whispered, his voice cracking as he leaned closer to Jungkook's side. Taehyung didn't answer. He just stood there staring as if trying to memorize every detail of Jungkook's face, the faint curve of his lips, the familiar lines of his jaw, the eyelashes that had once fluttered with laughter. Now they were still. Too still. And then, something happened that made even the nurses stop moving for a second. Jungkook's fingers twitched. Slowly, weakly, they moved as though searching for something, someone. Taehyung immediately took his hand, whispering his name, his tears falling onto the hospital bed. "It's me, Jungkook. I'm here." A faint smile appeared on Jungkook's lips. He didn't open his eyes at first, but when he finally did, they glistened with a kind of quiet pain that words could never describe. "Hyung," he murmured, his voice barely audible. Jimin leaned closer, his tears falling freely now. "Don't talk too much, Jungkook. Just rest. Please." But Jungkook shook his head. He wanted to say something, and both Taehyung and Jimin knew it wasn't just words. It was something important. Something that needed to be said no matter how much it hurt. His fingers tightened around Taehyung's hand, and with a trembling breath, Jungkook whispered, "If I don't make it, promise me you'll both keep smiling. Don't cry because of me. Live beautifully like you always told me to." The room fell silent. Even the sound of the machine seemed to fade for a second, drowned by the quiet sobs of the two older members. Taehyung bent forward, his forehead resting against Jungkook's hand, his voice breaking apart. "Don't say that, Jungkook. You'll make it. You always do." But Jungkook just smiled again, that small gentle smile that once lit up millions of hearts across the world. Outside, the news had already spread. Fans gathered in front of the hospital, holding banners, candles, and photos, praying for his recovery. The hashtags were everywhere. Hashtag Stay Strong Jungkook. Hashtag We Love You JK. Hashtag BTS Forever. Armies from every corner of the world were crying, sharing clips of old concerts, laughing and crying at the same time. They remembered his voice, his laugh, his boundless energy. How could someone so full of life be lying there in such fragile silence? Back inside the ICU room, Jimin turned toward the window, unable to stop his tears. "He always worried about us," he whispered. "Even now, he's thinking about everyone else first." Taehyung nodded, wiping his face. "That's Jungkook. Always the strong one." And then Jungkook spoke again, this time weaker, his breath shallow. "Tell ARMY thank you. Tell them I'm sorry for making them cry. I wanted to sing for them one more time." The weight of his words shattered whatever strength they had left. Jimin covered his mouth, trying to stifle a sob. "You will, Jungkook. You'll sing again. You have to." But even as he said it, his voice betrayed him. Because deep down they both knew the truth. This might be the last time they heard his voice in that quiet, fragile tone. And yet Jungkook smiled again. That same smile that told them not to be afraid. Hours passed. The lights dimmed as night settled over Seoul. The crowd outside refused to leave. Reporters were hushed, their voices replaced by the whispers of prayers. Inside, Taehyung sat by Jungkook's bedside, holding his hand, whispering softly as if afraid to wake him. "You once said music heals everything. So promise me, Jungkook. Come back so we can heal together." Jungkook didn't answer this time, but the soft beep of the monitor continued, steady but slow, like a fragile melody of life refusing to fade. By morning, the staff announced that Jungkook was still fighting. The doctor said his condition was critical but stable. And though no one knew what would happen next, that single word, fighting, was enough to ignite hope once again in millions of hearts. Fans around the world flooded social media with messages of love and strength. Some drew art, some wrote letters, some simply cried in silence. "Stay strong, Jungkook," they wrote. "We'll wait for you." Taehyung posted a photo on Weverse later that day. Just their three hands intertwined on the hospital bed. No caption, just a heart emoji. It broke the internet within minutes. Every fan knew what it meant. They were together, no matter what. And then came a video message from Jimin, his voice trembling as he spoke directly to ARMY. "He's fighting. He told us to tell you not to worry," he said. "Your love gives him strength." In that moment, the whole fandom cried together, not out of despair, but out of an unspoken bond that connected them to Jungkook's spirit. As the sun set again over Seoul, a faint melody began to play from Jungkook's phone left on the table beside him, his unfinished demo. Taehyung pressed play, his lips trembling as Jungkook's voice filled the room once more. "You are my reason to smile, even when I'm breaking inside." The sound echoed softly through the sterile air. Jimin broke down again, clutching Taehyung's arm as both of them cried silently. And yet, amidst all the pain, there was beauty, the kind that only love and brotherhood could create. Because even in that cold hospital room, surrounded by fear and sorrow, there was something unbreakable. Hope. So to every ARMY reading this, take a deep breath. Remember Jungkook's words. Don't cry because of me. Live beautifully. Comment below if his message touched your heart. Like and subscribe if you believe his voice will rise again. Because somewhere behind those hospital walls, Jungkook is still fighting. And as long as we keep believing, his song will never end. The night after that heart-wrenching visit became one of the longest nights Taehyung and Jimin had ever experienced. Neither of them could bring themselves to leave Jungkook's side. The hospital staff offered them a private resting room, but they refused, insisting on staying inside the ICU unit, even if it meant sleeping on the cold floor beside him. They didn't want to miss a single heartbeat, a single moment, or a single breath. Every rise and fall of Jungkook's chest felt like a battle between life and something darker, something they couldn't name, but could feel in their bones. Taehyung sat quietly, his fingers brushing against Jungkook's wrist where the pulse monitor glowed faintly. Memories began to flood his mind. He remembered the first time they met, Jungkook's shy smile, the way he bowed politely, how small and uncertain he'd seemed back then. And then he remembered the laughter, the late-night ramen runs, the rehearsals that lasted until dawn, the concerts where their hearts beat in unison with millions of fans chanting their names. It was more than friendship. It was brotherhood. Jimin, sitting across from him, was scrolling through old videos on his phone, clips of Jungkook teasing him, hugging him, singing